Welcome back. I'm your old pal Kat, and this is my knitting podcast, or whatever you want to call it. Librophiliac Knits. It is actually sort of inaccurate to call it Librophiliac Knits because I talk about a lot of other things besides knitting. But I don't know. I had to start somewhere with a name. So, what am I here to talk to you about today? Thrifting. That's what I decided. I found this sweater at a thrift store. Needs a end woven in, and I realized almost immediately that it was handmade. Like this is somebody's hand knit sweater that eventually ended up at the thrift store, and that got me thinking about what I wanted to talk to you about today, which is just being thrifty and, you know, maybe some less expensive ways to get into this somewhat expensive craft that we enjoy. So that's what I was going to talk about today, and let's get into it. So like I said, today I am wearing the sweater. It doesn't have any information on it. It's a very, well, pilly and comfortable and probably acrylic chunky wool knit, and I wear it when I want to feel cozy. I found it at the thrift store, just, you know, perusing the racks, not really looking for anything in particular, and it probably cost me less than $5, which is way less than the yarn would cost. I thought about taking it apart, but I would probably end up either never reknitting it or putting it back into something really similar. It fits me. It's a pretty color. Somebody did all this work. I just felt like it needed to be recognized for what it is. One of the other things that I love to look for when I'm at the thrift store is somebody else's very beautiful blanket. These blankets, this wasn't the first, this is the most recent one that I found. These blankets took somebody a lot of time and effort and money, and I love snuggling up under one of these big old blankets, and I haven't made that many of them myself, actually. So rather than, you know, I don't know, feeling bad about not being into massive blanket making, I do make a fair number of baby blankets. I actually have one in my current list of whips. Rather than feel bad about not being on a blanket making kick, I just, when I stop into thrift stores, always go and have a look at the blanket section to see if somebody else has made me a little something. And I've never seen any that cost more than $10, or certainly I've never bought one that cost more than $10. This one was on the cheap side because it had a couple of holes. So I brought it home and just messed around. Well, see, I didn't even weave in the ends. Messed around and repaired the holes in this fun, bright, sort of purpley color, fuchsia, whatever. I thought it was a fun contrast to this, you know, very basic and beautiful. I think this one is crocheted, actually. I wasn't too concerned about the construction. It's a really, like, nice, thick, heavy, again, probably acrylic. Never gonna wash this in hot, just in case I'm wrong. But this is my most recent thrift store blanket purchase, but one of my earlier ones, and has been lurking around my house. I just also love the colors. Look at this one. This was one of the first ones I brought. I think this one cost me about $3, which again, unless somebody gives you the yarn for free, is never gonna happen. It's such, like, wild and wonderful and sort of 70s colors, and it's big, you know. These are like, I don't know, great snuggling up on the couch blankets, or good for a, what do you call it, a twin bed, that sort of thing. Another way that you can come across some cheapo fun yarn to work with is just talking to your friends who are getting into or out of crafting. I ended up with this bag of wool because a friend of mine gave knitting a try and decided it was not for them. Including some DPNs. I'm a big fan of DPNs. I've got a whole roll of them, but there are a couple. These are size 10.5s. And the 10.5s that I have currently are the square kind, and sometimes they hurt my hands. So when I saw these, I was like, sure, I'll take those. I mean, and again, it's a whole paper bag of freebies. Just fun colors. Speaking of things that I could very easily make a big old blanket out of, it cost me nothing. And I didn't need it. I mean, if you were here with me last year, you remember that I was working on the Great Stash Down. And what did I do? I managed to use up about 9,000 yards of yarn. But a paper bag full of yarn is very quickly going to replenish that. So how many of those should I accept? None. But I took some. I couldn't help myself. That's the whole thing, is like, I live in the consumer utopia that is the United States, and I can't always help myself. Today I've been having a little bit of a struggle. I keep falling down the rabbit holes of shopping for things I don't need. I was in Ravelry looking for de-stash support spindles. I'm not using the support spindles I have. If I were to use those so much so that I needed more, that would be one thing. But that's not what I'm doing. So, oh, the last thing I wanted to talk about was the Textile Center recently had a garage sale. So that was my other big yarn haul that has come through. And they ended up giving me a whole box for my purchases. I went in there on a mission to, try to be realistic about my choices. I wanted to find sweater quantities. The Textile Center garage sale happens once a year, and it's kind of a big deal. I think it might kind of be like going to all those side gigs surrounding New York Sheep and Wool, like Indie Entangled. You have to buy tickets the first couple of days. I did not attempt to do that. It was the weekend that I was working, so I work nights, and I was not going to spend $25. Sorry if the camera is shaking. My dog is scratching himself and touching the tripod. I work nights, and it was my weekend to work, so I did not want to try to scramble to get in. I did not want to completely overspend. And so the decision I made, if I was going at all, and I wasn't even sure that I was going to go, was that I would go on the Sunday, because it's like an all weekend thing, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday and Saturday you have to pay to get in, but Sunday you don't. So, and everything's 50% off. At that point, they're just like, everything must go. So I went on the free day when I knew everything would be already kind of picked over. And I met up with a friend there, which was super fun. And I went with the intention of buying sweater quantities only. Like, be thoughtful about what you're getting and only get sweater quantities, because that is like my new mission. I have so many single skeins of weirdo yarn that I don't know how to put them together. I've bought the sea glass recipe, I wanted to say. No, it's called a pattern. In part because I would love to just use up all my weirdo scraps. I, have an endless ongoing beekeeper's quilt to use up all of my weirdo scraps of fingering weight yarn. But, I have so many single skeins. When the shopping mojo was strong, but the knowledge of my amount of money that I could spend was that it was like one skein max. So then I just get one, and now I have 5 million just singles. And anyway, so I went to the thing, and I walked around with Cha-Cha, and we had a lot of fun. And the only really sweater quantity of yarn that I actually got was this one. The 16 skeins of denim silk Barocco They don't do names, so it's color 1403. It's sort of a fun tweedy tan color, and I had an idea, but I've already forgotten what it was. I saw a sweater recently that I was like, oh yeah, that would totally work for this. It was something summery. This yarn is 20% silk and 80% rayon, which is not my usual MO, but that means it sounds, and it's like a chainette look. Can you see this? So, and it comes in 105 yard put-ups. So I've got 16 skeins of this, which means I could definitely make myself at least one sweater, if not two. And I will have to get back to you on what the summary thing I thought of to use that was, because now I can't remember. Shoot. Then I couldn't help it. It was the color that got me. I got this. It's acrylic. It's Reynolds yarn. It says Distinction Courtel, made in France exclusively for Reynolds yarn. It is probably a million years old. There are 8 skeins of it, and it comes in no, did not tell me the length. It just says 40 grams or 1 4/10 ounces. That's a fun. Nope, no idea. And again, the color's just a number, 405. Great. I don't know what I'm gonna do with these. Again, it might be a fun sweater. I love this color. These sort of aqua teal colors have officially become my favorite. Like I was never a favorite color person. I don't know if you're like this. You know, I like everything in its turn, but this color, this sort of tealy neck of the woods has become my very favorite. Then I found these, and really there was only acrylic stuff left for the most part. And the really fancy stuff that was left, they had it packaged in these like big groupings. I'll show you what I'm talking about in a second. But so there'd be like 1 or 2 balls of yarn that I really wanted out of the big grouping, but they wanted to sell the whole thing in one go, and I was not willing. So you know, again, the shopping mojo was strong. I took what I could get. This is called Yarns Brunswick Wind Mist brushed yarn, 96% acrylic and 4% polyester. Non-allergic, moth-proof, color fast. Whatever. But look, it's the kind that has the little gold sparkly bits. Many years ago, I wanted to make my friend a baby sweater, and I was looking for this, but I ended up at Stephen B, which is, you know, kind of an upscale yarn store in South Minneapolis, and I think I spent $80 or more on a baby sweater that my friend probably got to put her baby in 4 times. So I figured having this on hand would be the better part of valor, so that next time my baby sweater cost me, you know, maybe $5. I don't even know. I think that whole bag might have cost me $1. Oh, then I found a cone. I have no idea what it is, but I really like this gray, and I could use it by itself, or I could hold it double with something. I'm kind of thinking that it's acrylic. It's pretty squishy. I really like it. This sort of warm brown is my jam, and I've always kind of wanted a cone of yarn. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, why? What difference does it make if it's in a cone format? So, you know, this is my other maybe sweater quantity. Then what happened? Then I found these 2 were in a bag together. This is all silk, and this one is camel. It is Lane Borgosesia. I don't know. Zegna Barufa, camel. Look at the fun artwork on this. But it had a little bit of a swatch, so I ripped that out and just rolled it back into a ball. This silk is actually a little bit stiff, but it'd be really fun as an accent color for something. It's a good orange. So these are sort of some fancy yarns to try. Oh yeah, everything was in plastic bags and I just took them out. Then these two kind of farm yarns were paired together. They don't have any labels. This one's definitely got some VM in it. It's like a cool, I like this color. And this is probably a DK or a worsted weight. There's the VM. But, you know, looks like mill spun farm yarn. And this one was already in a ball. Had a couple of, you know, maybe moth nibbles or something, but they were paired together. And I wanted to try them. They were cute and pretty, and they'll make a good hat, maybe. So much for my sweater quantity mission. You can see how great my self-control is. Okay, we're down to the last two things. So then I saw some Holst yarn. I've always wanted to try this stuff, but I haven't gotten around to buying it. So if I could get it cheaper, I will try it. This turns out to be the Coast yarn, which is 55% lamb's wool and 45% cotton. So again, we have, and look at these colors. Hello, more baby knitting. But luckily for me, a lot of my friends are having babies and I work in labor and delivery. So if I just want to make some little cotton hats for the summertime, I can just hand them right over to our donation bins at work. And then some lovely patient will get to go home with a cute baby hat that was handmade. Okay. And then I went into the finished objects section, and there was a whole bunch of interesting stuff going on, but none of it was really calling to me until I noticed someone, I can't believe it, still I can't, someone completely knit and finished fingerless mitts out of this nice soft yarn. It's self-striping, it's fun bright colors, they're done. The only thing that needs to be done is weaving in the ends. The ball is still attached to this one. And they're finished. And I think it was marked like $7. And yes, I know most of the time, you know, knitting it yourself is half the fun. But in this case, I didn't want these to go to waste. Like, these are great. I'll wear these. My daughter's a big fan of fingerless mitts, so she might steal them from me. And the self-striping is going to continue into like a purple and blue territory, which also looks like a lot of fun. It'd be great for a hat or something. I don't know, but it was too good to pass up. And then the last thing that I got, oh wait, that's not true. Well, next is the books. But anyway, the last thing that I got that was fiber related was these 3 crazy bats of fiber, like art yarn style ridiculousness, and they're all like, here, they're all mass quantities of different things all mixed together. This one, oh my gosh, look at this, look at the insanity. It's gonna be so much fun. This one is Falkland, Finn, Corriedale, BFL Corey Romney, Bamboo, Tencel, Firestar, and Angelina. 4.9 ounces from Hello Pearl. It's called Loon, in case you didn't understand how crazy it was being deliberately. Or you're Minnesotan. It's our state bird. So these 3 things were all together. I was looking for support spindles while I was there. I mean, I know it's a textile center. They seem to be more in the direction of like, they also had embroidery stuff. I didn't get into that. They had a floor loom that was being advertised originally, like a $1,200, oh my gosh, floor loom. There were a couple of just like frame looms left when I got there that got snatched up before I left. I thought about them, but I'm not on that mission yet. well, that wasn't the type of weaving, I guess. If I was going to get into it, I was thinking about it. Like, if I was going to get into it, that wasn't the type of loom I would be looking for. So it was really fine that those disappeared and stopped tempting me with something that I wasn't sure that I want, that I probably didn't actually want. So last but not least, I went digging in the books because I'm still trying to find my own copies of the Barbara Walker books. And thankfully Chacha was there to look for things for me because she found, speaking of not being on a mission to make blankets, Barbara Walker How to Learn to Knit Afghan book. But I wanted it. Maybe eventually I'll make some. Sometimes I just have things to have them, and I'm okay with that. Some of them were just little pamphlets, which is kind of fun. I found a West Knits book. This is, oh my gosh, look at him. He's such a baby. This is ancient. He's a tiny baby. There were probably only 2 things in here, but this probably cost me 50 cents. So 2 that I was really excited to make out of the, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nope, 8. 8 designs for 50 cents. Sure, why not? I think I already have a copy of this, but not with this cover. I like this cover better, which means I can get rid of the other one. Knitting Without Tears, which I never knew if it was saying knitting without tears, like this is how to reinforce your, no, tears. Don't be sad. You can do it. I love Elizabeth Zimmerman. She is fun. I love her conversational style. Then I got yarns to dye for, because I do eventually want to get into dyeing, creating self-patterning yarns for knitting. That might be really fun. And even if I don't get that cool, I don't know, man. I mean, this just looks so cool. And I live in a neighborhood that's full of goldenrod, and my partner really likes marigold, so I could get him to, you know, garden us a bajillion of them so that I can then pick them and use them for dyeing, and so on and so forth. Anyway, this one, Knitting from the Top, is another Barbara Walker book. Came without its dust jacket, which is fine. How to Calculate Shaping is in the introduction. Pretty cool. And then New Icelandic Fashions for Boys and Girls. This is sort of a teaser for an upcoming episode. I am finishing the sweater of someone who passed away, and the pattern that person was working from is one of these. And I love the sweaters that are in that, and I saw this and I was like, oh cool, I can have my own. I'm probably going to go through, you know, and make copies of the other one because I want to keep it with the product. Like, I have to give it back, basically. And they're not going to have a use for it, but that's not the point. Like, she wrote her name on it. So, like, it's a family heirloom for them. But anyway. So that was some of the fun thrifting that I did. And it cost me $125. Full disclosure. Like, that huge box of yarn, more than 2 sweater quantities worth. Like, fancy yarns and books, and like thrifting in that direction, you know, yes, it was still over $100. I agree. That's plenty of money for our expensive hobby. But in terms of what I would have paid retail for all of those things, I can't even begin to guess. I mean, the bats alone are worth that money. And there are only 3 of them. Never mind the books. And the cone and the camel and every other. Anyway, yeah. Go look in unusual places for the yarn that you want. Go to the thrift store. There are fun, like, you know, grab bag kind of situations with yarn. My friend Wax, who I mention on every episode, she is great at finding amazing yarns at the thrift store, which is super cool. All right. There were just a couple. Apparently, my dog does this sometimes. He just woofs at nothing. Nothing's happening. He's got great timing. Great comedic timing, this guy. So my works in progress that I'm going to talk to you about. I'm excited. I'm making a baby blanket. I'm just messing around with self-striping yarn. This is one of... Oh, that's not it. There we go. This is one of those Karen cakes. It's just a self-striping yarn. Nothing too exciting. You know, acrylic. It does what it wants. And this is my own baby blanket recipe. I'm just doing a, what do you call it? I-cord edging. So like I cast on an I-cord for as wide across as I wanted to make it. And then I started out with, what do you call it? Knitting all the time. You're shouting at the screen right now. Yes, I know what it's called. It's not stockinette. That's this part where it's knitting on one side and purling on the other. It's garter stitch. There we go. So I started out with garter stitch to try and avoid rolling edges. And then I did stockinette until I was tired of purling, and now I'm doing a little garter again. And I'm about to switch back, or I just switched back to stockinette. And I don't have any plans to do anything fancier than this. This is my absolute mindless knitting. I did most of this garter stitch section while I was watching the new biopic about Bob Marley in the theater. It's the first movie I've been to see in the theater in a very long time, and I really enjoyed the movie. My partner is kind of a reggae historian. He really loves music, and he really got into reggae, and so he wanted to see this. I think in part to hate on it in case it was not historically accurate, but there were only a couple of details that he was annoyed about or that he wasn't sure of in terms of like when Bob got shot. Spoiler alert, once upon a time, Bob Marley was shot. He was unclear about somebody being in the car with Bob's wife. Anyway, I'm actually getting close to being done with this. I'm going to work on it some more today. I'm really excited about it. This is the coracle cowl. Did I lift it up yet? No, by Isolde Teague. There we go. We're finally on the decreasing sections so that it can all come back together. Wait, you know what? I think it goes... Eventually it will go this way. Like so. And my daughter is totally right. It looks like the top of a pie. A delicious, delicious pie. This yarn is farm yarn I bought at a festival that is wool and Angora and hand-dyed. I only have this much left, so it's a good thing I'm on the decreases. It's really soft because of the Angora, and that means it's going to be really warm. And since it's just going to be the kind of cowl that you can just chuck on, it's going to keep my nice and cozy. And I'm probably going to get a lot of Angora in my mouth, and I'm not sad about it. I'm really enjoying it. I took a little break from it because there can be kind of a lot of counting, but the longer I work on it, the more that I can like remember what the pattern is, first of all, and second of all, read like where I'm at, because there's a lot of like 5 of this stitch and then 3 of that stitch, and then you flip it over and you go 5 the other way and 3, you know. But it's so pretty. I want to make more of these. I actually want to make sort of a smaller version, or I don't know, just use some scraps to make something like that to match the hat I finished for my auntie. Did I show you this? This is my finished object from January. I finished this hat. I left this for no good reason, mostly because I keep thinking about putting a pom-pom on it, but then I also want to use the yarn that's left over from making this to make a cowl to go with. This purple, look at that purple. This is one of those times where I gifted a partially knit object to my aunt, and she laughingly asked if I was trying to make her start knitting, and I said no, I just haven't had a chance to finish it, and now it's finished. It's February. I haven't given it to her yet, and it's because I'm second guessing a pom-pom. What do you guys think? Should we put a pom-pom on it? Should we skip it? Her head's a little smaller than mine, so I figured the fact that it's super tight on me, I accidentally made it long. I got distracted. So it's kind of slouchy. So pom-pom might just drag that down more. And it's not really reversible. I had my daughter put it on because her head is small like my auntie's head, and she flipped it over immediately, which isn't really what it's supposed to look like, but there. I don't know. It's pretty cute. I sort of based it on the tessellated patterns by Andrea Mowry, except that I guess she uses mosaic and I used Fair Isle, and I didn't buy any of her patterns. I just looked at some pictures and did my own version of it because I do like the sort of plaid effect. The colors that I use, the red and the purple, both sort of bleed into each other so much that it's almost hard to tell that I was using two different colors. I don't know, in my opinion. What do you think? And then third option is this lovely silk mohair Malabrigo. I'm a fan. So this is my one finished object, and other than needing to sew on some more buttons, this is my other finished object. I'm gonna use really obnoxious bright green buttons, and isn't that gonna be fun? Because I can. I did a little stash bust. Some leftovers. I think this is the red from the hat. Yeah. See? Excuse me. So these are my only two finished items so far this year. Hat in January. There are dogs. And sweater in February. My knitting mojo was weak because I sort of sprained my thumb in derby, and even though I knew that continuing to use it would be good for me, it just hurt. And I was scared that I had broken it and then not gone in a timely fashion to get it looked at. But it has made a full recovery. It doesn't hurt anymore, and I've been knitting a bunch. Whee! But in the meantime, I was doing a lot of spinning. Did you guys notice this back here? Oh my gosh. The plying, it just keeps going. I had no idea it was going to be this much. I'm so excited about it. This is my super duper combo spin. I'm using two different Hello Yarn Fiber Club bags that were like sort of similar. And then a plain white from my many raw fleeces that I've been processing. I think it was mostly Shropshire, but I sort of messed around and used whatever I could just put my hands on that was clean. So there might be a little bit of the merino katahdin in it. There might be a little something else. And then the gray color, well, sometimes it's brown, but here, see, you can really kind of see. That grayish brownish color is my first ever purchase fleece, which I think is CVM. That's what I keep saying. I'm pretty sure it was a CVM. Maybe it was a BFL. I think it was a CVM. I bought something that was gray and brown and colored all over, and I just really loved all the different colors and thought that that would be super fun. And ironically, despite having mass quantities spun up, when I went to finally do the plying, this keeps happening to me. So I'm having sort of a fun leapfrog with my plying. Here, I'll show you. Hang on. Oh. So first, I wasn't finished with the with the last bit of the colored, like the Hello Yarn hand-dyed stuff. But then I ran out of gray. So right now, I'm in the midst of plying. I got this far. I got this much left of both of these, and one more of about the same size of this one. Now, see, here's one of the colors. I should show you all of them. So here's one of the colors sets I'm working with. Hang on. Okay, so this one is Thornapple Corriedale from September of 2022 in the Fiber Club. All right, cover my face. It's not working because I can't see what I'm doing. There we go. But it's super pretty. And then the other one that I showed you before, that was Heavy Weather from April, and that is Falkland wool. And so those are the two different colorways that I thought would be fun. And look, I mean, you can see this one is the Thornapple. That's too far back. This one is the Thornapple. It's got a lot deeper situation happening. And this one is the Heavy Weather. It's a little bit lighter, but I didn't realize it was going to have so much. I'm so excited. Is this a sweater quantity spin? It's pretty close. I can't wait to get it off of these and find out how much I have. I think it's going to be a lot, which is great. Sorry, they're really shaking things up today. I don't usually let the animals in the room, but I decided to give them a try. I think it's confirming that I should not bother. All right, well, yeah, so that was really what I wanted to talk to you about today. Thrifting is a great way to get into crafting of any kind. The only place that I'm not finding that to be true has been support spindles. I can't find them anywhere. Wax found drop spindles, $2 a piece. She ended up getting like a dozen of them because I told her to, but I was like, oh my gosh, buy them all. And so I have a whole bunch of them with in progress spins, just lots of white wool. I think the other half of that coin is that if you have stuff you're not using, get rid of it. You know, put it back out into the world so that somebody else can make use of it. I try to be generous I mean, you know, I'm a little bit of a craft hoarder. It's just, here's Django. Hi, buddy. Hi. Yeah. I'm a little bit of a craft hoarder. It goes with the territory of making so many things and not being sure, you know, what I want to do today. Let me just have a little bit of everything so I can do whatever I want. But oh my gosh, the tail is loud. He's so excited. Yeah. And Ziggy just cannot stop kicking the tripod. My friends, this is my life. It's like Dr. Dolittle, except it's me. It's me. Every time I sit down, I'm covered in animals or a child. This is the life I chose for myself. I went to the textile center looking for sweater quantities and support spindles. There were no support spindles, nothing at all spindly of any kind. There was one antique spinning wheel left that I think also got snatched up while I was there, and I wasn't in the market for that. I wasn't interested, so that was just like pretty nice to see. Glad somebody else was gonna get started in their spinning journey or continuing or whatever. There was not much in the way of roving. But the other thing that I ended up finding that I hadn't been thinking about, and I have had in my Amazon, like, you know, when you decide to keep it for later in the cart, I've had a 1.5 millimeter double pointed needles in my Amazon cart for like 2 years. And instead of spending $11 on a brand new set that I maybe would use and maybe I would not, I found some in this garage sale for like $1. So that was awesome. I ended up buying 3 sets of DPNs, like 000s, 00s, and 0 or something like that, you know, where it was like the little guys that I was too intimidated to buy when I first got into knitting, and then have been meaning to get myself so that I have them available to use if I do head in that direction. Like I own and spin lace weight yarns. I should have, you know, the option of using something to make with those. So that is a great option for new knitters or new crafters, or if you have a friend who's just starting to get into stuff, like give them your old straights that you're not using and some acrylic. Like let them learn with decent tools, and they'll have a much larger likelihood of doing well. It's, it's so tough getting into stuff when you're not sure if you're going to like it, to spend money and then maybe hate it. My first spinning wheel, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but my very first spinning wheel that I ever purchased was not a spinning wheel. It was decor that looked like a spinning wheel that had been in someone's family for so long that they thought it, I guess technically it was an antique, but it was not an antique tool. It was a thing you stuck in the corner so that it looked like you lived in the country or whatever. It was like, went next to somebody's old butter churn, but was not actually functional. I spent $125 and drove over an hour to get that. And I was such a novice that I did not understand at the time. And, I'm Midwestern, and it's really hard for me to say no or set boundaries. And I had my heart set on it so much that by the time I got there, I felt so bad telling them that, like, I wasn't sure that that was what I thought it was. And I thought that maybe I could turn it into a functional wheel because it had all the parts. It had a treadle, it had things that looked like bobbins. It was not functional. It could not be turned into something functional. It's nothing. I think it may have been relegated to the dumpster in one of my moves, honestly. But it was such a disappointment. And like, you don't even want to put it in a museum. It's not, it wasn't that kind of an antique. I feel bad admitting that. But like, no, what I'm saying is that it's so hard to get into new crafting interests when it's so prohibitively expensive to even try it. And like, I didn't think that I was going to like drop spindling at all. That seemed kind of dumb and too slow. I wasn't at the moment that I'm at now where I'm like, too slow is fine. As Marce from HeyBrownBerry likes to say, we've started to normalize slow making, which is awesome, but it didn't always used to be that way. And I wanted to learn how to spin because I do love to knit, and I like yarn, and I like playing around with stuff. And, eventually I'm going to start dyeing all the wool I have and fall down that rabbit hole. But getting into the craft can be so expensive. So like letting other people in by, erasing that first bit of gatekeeping that is in existence because stuff is so expensive, it's just awesome. Like, it's fun to share with people. I've got a coworker, I'm really excited to teach her daughter how to drop spindle because she's interested, and now I have all these $2 drop spindles from the thrift store. Thank you so much, Wax. That I can like share with people. I want to process some more of my raw wool so that I can give it to this girl, because then all it cost me was water and soap. Like, all the rest of it is no big deal. And if that gets an 11 or 12-year-old girl into something that she can then enjoy for the whole rest of her life, like, how awesome is that? And maybe that helps her mom entertain her, a little bit more. And then she's happier too, like, whatever. Or maybe her mom gets into it. You never know. Like, that's what's so fun about this, is you just never know where things are going to take you. And thrift stores are great for that. I'm a big fan. One of the things that I have trouble with here in the land of YouTube, and I'm sorry, this is getting into like a long form chat. Sometimes I have a little bit of trouble with how much money people seem to have to spend on this hobby. Like, how did you get that $1,000 tool just for no particular, I guess it helps if you don't have kids, or like you're super successful, or like you come from money and you just didn't mention it. I don't know. 'Cause like, I don't have that much petty cash, and maybe I did at one point, but I've had to slow my roll a little bit. Things got expensive, feeding teenagers and changes in taxes and whatever. Like, things got expensive. So it's tough sometimes to be bombarded with these impossible purchases. Like, I am so happy for you that you can afford to buy 6 sweater quantities of $30 skein yarn, but that's not in my budget. Like, so while we're normalizing slow making, to normalize cheap making is something I would also like to get into. Not to say like cheap, like poor quality, but just there are inexpensive methods of doing some of this stuff, you know. I mean, most of my fleeces I got for free because, you know, and I live in a major metropolitan area, but I drove an hour out of town and I found a farm. Like, I mean, I had a friend who bought that farm, so like I had an in, and she's sort of a novice to the wool world, so that like made it a little bit easier because she was willing to just part with it, you know. I offered to buy it from her, but she just gave it to me because it was just sitting in her barn. And it's gorgeous Shetland fleece, like gorgeous. Like, I really want her to start selling it because she could probably use that income, because being a farmer is expensive. And if that ever happens, I will be sure to let you know. But, you know, I got my first set of hand cards as a hand-me-down, or, you know, Christmas gift. I got, when I did finally purchase a wheel, it was at a festival, and I still have it, and it's still very useful. Like, when I did finally purchase a functional spinning wheel, I should say. I also was gifted an antique that is almost functional. It just needs like one part, and I need to find someone who machines metal to fix it. And I have made occasional inquiries to people who allegedly fix wheels, but they always have such a backlog that I've never gotten it fixed. So it's still just waiting. But like, I went through and broke it down and like washed it in Murphy oil soap, like, and, you know, conditioned the wood, and it's so beautiful, and I can't wait to someday be able to use it. It's a Sleeping Beauty kind of wheel. All my other wheels are castle wheels. I love a castle wheel, but this one, like, someday I really look forward to using it. As soon as I figure out that one stinking part. Anyway, all this to say that the world of making is your oyster. There are just so many things out there in the world to entertain you and take up your free time, and I hope that you find them. For me, knitting and spinning is pretty high up there, but thrifting is also a way that I sometimes feed the capitalist beastie without completely bankrupting myself. And I hope that you enjoy it too, because, like, look at the fun sweater I found. This is Lola. Hi, baby. Yeah, so that's it for me today. I hope you're doing well. I hope that your crafting mojo is strong and you've been, you know, enjoying the first couple months of 2024, and we'll see you soon. Bye.